good writing, and George had even though the movie was being made for no money, there was no budget at all, it still had Haskell Wexler working on it and Francis Ford Coppola producing it, you know. It's just like, we thought maybe somebody might see this movie someday, so let's do the best we can. And we would get together in each other's rooms and rehearse. Gino Havens, who had been the casting assistant, was dialogue coach. He'd run lines with us because George wanted to make sure that we all knew our lines. He didn't have time to mess around on the set with actors not knowing their lines. So we'd rehearse in the afternoon, then around 6 we'd get our call. We'd go out to work. And George would I don't know, we'd go out there on the set, we'd be doing a scene, you know, standing around a car, and he'd say, so where do you want to stand? I was expecting the director would block the scene. Tell you be here, you be here. But George would just say, how do you want to do this? So I'd say, well, I don't know, I guess I'll lean against this car, and I'd stand over here and he'll stand over there. And then we'd start doing these scenes. And one of the first things George told us, one of the first things he said was, I wrote this script, so I'm giving you free rein to change any line you want. Say it however you would say it. Because he wanted that very naturalistic feel. So we'd just stand around the cars, and then we'd do these scenes. We'd do them over and over. And after each one, he'd say, that was terrific. Let's do it again. And so we'd all look at each other and say, if it's terrific, why are we doing it again? You know, what does that mean exactly? But he just wanted to see what would happen.
Basically, what I got from George after each take was terrific. That I remember, that was his word. Terrific, and this.
Because that's all he ever said about any scene, terrific. And as actors, you know, we kind of wanted this sort of dialogue, this sort of exchange. And at one point, I went to George and I said, well, am I doing okay for you? Because you're not saying much, to tell you the truth. And he said, no. He said, I'm getting great material. And he said, I'm shooting this in a kind of a documentary style. So I want this naturalism. If you're really doing anything that I didn't like, I'd tell you, but it's great. And he says, and frankly, we're going so fast. We're on such a low budget and such a fast schedule that I'm going to really wind up doing most of my directing in the editing room. I'm going to make a lot of choices and really define the movie in the editing room.
I had to make this entrance on this Vespa, and like so many of the vehicles in the movie, it wasn't really a particularly good thing. I mean, it looked fine, but it didn't run very well.
And he didn't know how to drive a motorbike.
I had like an hour before we shot the scene to practice taking it around the parking lot of the drive-in.
I showed him a little bit, and somebody else showed him.
My plan, because I was supposed to do something funny on the entrance, that was what was called for in the script, I thought I would ride it in, bump up over a curb, put the thing into like third, and let the clutch out so it would jerk. And I thought that would be funny. I got ready. We stopped traffic on Van Ness in San Francisco because it was right in the middle of downtown. There's a big crane and everything. I mean, it was a huge deal. So I came in. I finally got the Vespa and came around, bumped up over the curb. It wasn't really all that good a bump. I wasn't that happy with it. And I couldn't get it into third. So I just left it in first and let the clutch out, hoping it would stall. But instead, it took off. So this thing scoots forward this way with me still hanging on to it, bangs into a trash thing that was there, and then finally stalls and dies. And if you look at the movie, I stand there for a minute thinking somebody's going to say, cut, right? Because this was a mistake. This wasn't supposed to happen. And I'm waiting. I don't hear George saying cut. So I figure, you know, good theater-trained actor, keep acting. So I saw Ronnie and I walked over to him. We started playing the thing. And then later on, I apologized. I said to George, I'm sorry about that. I couldn't control the thing, and I don't know how to ride a Vespa. He said, no, it was great. We're keeping it. There are a lot of mistakes in the movie. And it seems to me that every mistake that happened, he'd cut into the picture. In fact, I thought that he would keep doing takes until something would go wrong. And then that's the one that he would print. That's the one that he'd like. The scene where I robbed the liquor store, or the guy, I go in to get the thing, and the guy robs the liquor store. And the guy comes running out, and he throws the bottle of booze to me as he's on his way out of the thing. Well, I would be standing with my back to the store, I guess, because I was looking at candy. And he would run out, and he'd throw the bottle, I'd turn around, and I'd catch it. And it worked really well. I caught it really nicely every time. We kept doing it. We kept doing it. I'm thinking, it's working. I don't know why George wants to keep shooting this. One time, I turned around, and I turned around late, and the bottle had almost hit the ground, and I just caught it before it hit. And that's the one that he printed. You know, it was like too clean the other way. He wanted it to be, you know, he wanted those mistakes.